SnowTrax is sponsored by Ski-Doo. What matters is what's next. Yamaha, conquer snow. And by FXR Racing, full throttle addiction.
By this point in the season, you already know all about the latest and greatest sleds from each manufacturer, and you've probably got a pretty good handle on our opinions of each of them. There's some older technology and a lot of new tech floating around in the industry right now, and I think we've covered most of it pretty thoroughly. For sure, over the past few seasons, we've talked more than enough about all the new chassis and platforms. So today, instead of doing a typical shootout where we take a look at 3 competing vehicles, we're going to do something a little different. We're going to take a look at the industry's 3 largest 2-stroke power plants and do a shootout with them. We're also going to call this one a seat-of-the-pants shootout, meaning we're going to focus more on the actual real-world user experience versus focusing only on empirical data. Why do it this way? Well, a seat-of-the-pants shootout will tell you exactly what you can expect to experience when you run one of these power plants yourself. Numbers and statistics can only tell you so much. What we think is truly most important is what an engine is like on the snow in your backyard. Plus, we know you keep coming back here to hear our opinions on stuff, not to hear us read brochure and EPA copy. By focusing on just the motors themselves, we're hoping you're going to get a clearer picture of what you can expect from each of these power plants. We're going to leave deciding which of these chassis fits you best up to you. The 3 engines we're going to look at today are Arctic Cat's 8000 series, Ski-Doo's new 850 E-TEC 2, and Polaris's Cleanfire 800 HO. Obviously, there is not a Yamaha in this shootout because they don't offer an 800 class 2-stroke. To make things as simple and easy to understand as possible, we're going to break down the evaluation of each engine into 6 categories. They are horsepower, torque, power curve, vibration, cleanliness, and economy. To keep things moving along, we won't spend a lot of time explaining each category. They are pretty self-explanatory, so let's just jump right in. Arctic Cat's 794cc 8000 series twin cylinder is the oldest of the bunch. It's got a long history, and we've tested it in countless platforms. It's also the least sophisticated, employing only a pipe sensor to monitor the system. Polaris's 795cc Cleanfire semi-direct injected high-output twin is the second oldest of the bunch. The base of this motor has been around for quite a while, but it received a pretty significant upgrade when it was dropped into the Axis chassis and received its HO moniker. Obviously, the new kid on the block here is Ski-Doo's 849cc E-TEC 2 direct injected unit. It's also the most sophisticated. The horsepower category is really the simplest to judge. Whichever one has more wins. The hard part is knowing just how much horsepower each really has. To determine this, we're pulling information from manufacturers' claims as well as general industry consensus based on numerous dyno tests from numerous different sources. Arctic's 800 has always been claimed to put out right around 160 horsepower, which is believable and is a number that's well accepted in the industry. While Polaris has never made any official horsepower claims for its Cleanfire 800 HO mill, it's widely accepted in the industry that it puts out between 163 and 165 ponies. Ski-Doo's new 850 hasn't been around as long as the others, so there hasn't been as much independent testing, but between Ski-Doo's own claims and what we've heard elsewhere, 165 plus is more than realistic. Obviously, in this category, the Ski-Doo gets its first point. The next thing we're going to look at is torque, because in reality, this is what you're going to feel most with pretty much any engine. Unless you spend all of your time running lakes, it's an engine's torque that gives you that arm-stretching thrill while you're squeezing it from corner to corner. Here, the Arctic Cat 800 is really lacking. It's a very peaky engine that makes its power at the upper RPM ranges. The Polaris is a stump puller. It makes power immediately and it pulls hard. Despite having a more than 50cc advantage, Ski-Doo's 850 doesn't feel any more impressive than the Polaris in terms of bottom end. What's interesting to note is that actual dyno-measured torque says the Ski-Doo has more than the Polaris, which only serves to validate the seat-of-the-pants style of this shootout. The numbers really are only half the story. In reality, these two could tie here, but because the Polaris has fewer cc's than the Ski-Doo, it's actually doing more with less, so we think it deserves the point. We think an engine's power curve is a hugely important aspect of the engine's overall performance. Massive power and torque that is delivered abruptly or in surges isn't easy or fun to control all day. Arctic's 800 has a very top-end bias power curve. On the bottom, it's very flat, and it doesn't start to rise until the upper end of the RPM range. Now, this doesn't necessarily make it hard to ride, but it's also not relaxing to ride either. The Polaris 800 power curve is very linear. From engagement to full throttle, the power seems to flow evenly at all times. This makes it an extremely easy and pleasant engine to hang on to. Ski-Doo's 850 is more abrupt down low, but after that initial hit, it smooths right out and is linear all the way to the top like the Polaris. After considerable seat time on these two vehicles, the consensus is that the power curve of the 800 Cleanfire is just slightly more linear than that of the E-TEC 850. Now, it's just by a little bit, but it is noticeable, so the Polaris gets its second point. Big bore twin-cylinder engines are notorious for vibration. It can be controlled by counterbalancers and vibration-absorbing engine mounts, but some setups work better than others. Arctic Cat's 800 twin doesn't vibrate overly hard, but because it revs so high all the time, it does suffer from a high-frequency vibration that can have a numbing effect on your hands after a really long pull. It's not unlivable or awful though. Polaris's twin definitely vibrates at idle, which could lead you to believe it's gonna vibrate like crazy under power. But once you get the RPMs up, the vibration all but goes away. The limited build 850 Ski-Doos last season suffered from huge vibration issues, but the production models this season have had it smoothed out considerably, and it now vibrates less than the others, so the E-TEC gets its second point here.
SnowTrax is sponsored by MBRP Performance Exhaust. Race inspired, trail proven.
Engine cleanliness is somewhat of a hot-button topic these days. With the EPA tightening the restrictions more and more on snowmobile engines, people are paying more and more attention to what's coming out of their snowmobile's exhausts. Arctic's 800 is normally injected. It has only a pipe sensor to make adjustments. It smokes a lot more than the others, and you can tell it doesn't run as clean. The Polaris Cleanfire engine is semi-direct injected and has numerous sensors. It doesn't smoke much at all and runs very clean and smooth. There is no question though, the direct injected 850 E-TEC is the king of clean. You almost never see blue smoke coming out of its exhaust, and it runs like it's practically an electric motor. What's interesting is, again, if you look at the EPA numbers measuring hydrocarbons, the Polaris actually produces less, and it and the Ski-Doo are tied for carbon monoxide. We all know the EPA numbers are generated in a lab under controlled conditions. Here again, they only tell half the story. The E-TEC runs cleaner in all the ways that matter most in the real world, so it gets the point here. Next, we're going to look at something we hear more about than anything else when it comes to snowmobile engines: economy, or more specifically, how easy or hard they are on gas and oil. Despite being a relatively low-tech engine that doesn't run as clean as the others, Arctic's 8000 series is actually not that bad on gas. It's not great, but it's definitely not terrible. It does use its fair share of oil though. Polaris's Cleanfire mill has traditionally been an overachiever when it came to economy. Previous versions could use very similar amounts of fuel to Ski-Doo's E-TEC 800s, and oftentimes they would use less oil. But thanks to E-TEC 2 direct injection and an all-new oil management system, Ski-Doo's 850 is just a miser on fuel, often taking up to 20% less than the Polaris when they've both been run hard. And it'll go forever on a tank of oil. There's no question, Ski-Doo's 850 gets the point here, as nothing so far has even come close to this kind of economy. So now that we've covered all of our 6 categories, it's time to take a look at how each of these sleds stack up. A quick tally reveals that Arctic Cat's 800 came away with 0 points, but this definitely doesn't mean it's not a good motor. It's just not a great motor when compared to the other two. Of course, this all needs to be taken with a grain of salt, as we've already seen and felt Arctic's new E-TEC 2 800, and it's fantastic. It's got tons of bottom-end torque, it runs cleaner and is more efficient. Its power curve is more linear. Basically, it would be extremely strong competition for the other two, and could have potentially changed the outcome of this shootout. Polaris's Cleanfire 800 came away with 2 points which were focused around rideability traits of the motor. There's absolutely no question this engine is stout down low, and its power delivery is ultra smooth and controllable. But what's also undeniable is that Ski-Doo's 850 E-TEC 2, with its 4-point total, is the winner here. Not just because it's new technology that we're all excited about. It really is a big step forward in two-stroke engine design, and its performance and rideability characteristics are extremely close or on par with the Cleanfire 800. But on top of that, it's also the cleanest running, most efficient, and most solidly built of the bunch. When you put all three of these sleds on the snow side by side, it doesn't take long to come to the conclusion, as we did, that Ski-Doo's 850 E-TEC 2 is the very best big-bore two-stroke engine this industry has ever seen.
SnowTrax is sponsored by snowmobileinquebec.com. Experience a ride you'll never forget.
Although most snowmobilers probably don't know this, there has been some fairly significant changes made at Yamaha's snowmobile division. In fact, this is the first year that Yamaha's snowmobile division will be managed completely out of Canada. We asked Yamaha snowmobile boss Peter Smallman what this means to you and to Yamaha snowmobiles.
Yamaha, the snowmobile division, has changed. Our president worldwide, Mr. Yanagi, he's requested that more local leadership take over the responsibilities for the product groups. And some of the examples that I can use is ATV side-by-side is now based out of Kennesaw in the United States. So this is where the business is. So when we looked at where snowmobile should be based, it should be right in the heart of the snowmobile industry itself. Canada, for North America, is where we based out here. We were given this enormous responsibility, and we're really enjoying it. We've got a great team here, and we're very excited about how we can move Yamaha snowmobiles going forward. We spoke before about the relationship that we have with our partner that we're working with in our alliance, Arctic. We needed to improve the speed on how we do business. For having the leadership for snowmobile based out of North America, we can act quicker and respond to the market quicker, like our alliance partner, compared than where we were with Japan in the past.
There are good reasons for Yamaha's snowmobile division management and marketing moving to Canada. Pete will shed some light on this.
The reason why we chose Yamaha Motor Canada to anchor the North American snowmobile division going forward is we have some of the best in the business working right here out of this office, and we have access to some of the best people in the snowmobile industry here in Canada. So as far as our marketing teams go, our product development teams, our service teams, we had the best of the best working right here in this building. Together, we work together as a team, and basically we've been doing that for a long, long time together. So going forward, the benefit for having this based is speed and being able to communicate all in one office here.
Peter has done a lot of different jobs at Yamaha over his 30-year tenure with the company. All of this experience uniquely positions him to be able to run the new Yamaha snowmobile division.
I'm going on to my 31st year at Yamaha. I've started off in the parts and accessory division. I've been in many of the roles in sales and marketing and through product development. And I think the one thing that's really helped me in this new role is because I've had the opportunity to work in so many of the important areas that we bring to the North American snowmobile team, in the product development area, in the marketing area, into the sales area. So moving forward is very exciting, being able to use all the resources that I've learned. I've represented and worked in every single product group that Yamaha markets in Canada. So drawing on all those resources and leveraging what I learned from that, I think that puts me in a very good position to be able to lead this exciting young new team to where we need to go in the snowmobile division here at Yamaha.
Snowmobiles are a significant contributor to Yamaha Motor Canada's business profile as compared to the contribution they make to Yamaha USA. We asked Pete to weigh in on this and give us the details.
Snowmobiles are very important to Yamaha Motor Canada, but it's also very important to every single dealer in North America, Canada and US that sells 4 seasons of product. And in Canada, yes, we have more dealers that are selling snowmobiles than south of the border, but it is just as important on both sides of the border for these dealers to be able to represent the product and keep their technicians busy all winter long and enjoy a sport that we have all loved.
Moving forward, we wanted to understand just exactly what is Yamaha USA's role in this new structure.
So basically, as far as snowmobile is concerned, you have Canada and the United States is exactly the same. The way that we operate our sales team, same dealer network, same marketing on both sides. However, the way that we are different is now with the North American team, we've been charged with the responsibility globally for a lot of responsibilities in snowmobiles, from product development, marketing, and a lot of the research development. So that's where the North American team comes from. And that's why it's based here in Canada. I think the one exciting thing about our team is they're now empowered. They can make decisions for snowmobiles that affect the entire world. And I think that's really exciting. We've got a young, energetic team that wants to exceed everybody's expectations. So you see from some of the product that we're working on right here, you haven't seen anything yet.
SnowTrax is sponsored by Princess Auto, a unique world of equipment, tools, and more. Closed captioning of SnowTrax is sponsored by Triton Trailers, built for adventure.
Few people have stood on the very top of a mountain, above 10,000 feet, and looked out over the vast expanse of white fluffy powder that goes on as far as the eye can see. Places like these are hard to get to, unless you have the right tools. The type of tools I'm referring to are the deep lug, long track, high horsepower mountain sled type, something exactly like Polaris's Pro RMK 174. As one of only 2 factory 174-inch mountain sleds on the market, this Pro RMK is a member of an exclusive club. We've experienced the merits of a sled like this last season after we spent a lot of time on Skidoo's Summit 174. After spending some time with this awesome-looking gray and green Polaris Pro RMK, a few things have become abundantly clear. First, you have to want to go where this sled can take you. With a sled like this, getting to the top is often the easy part. It's getting back down that's the problem. Polaris set the bar extremely high with their RMK, year after year pushing the bar higher and higher when it comes to rigidity, durability, performance, and weight. The result of this borderline obsession is a lineup of sleds that can pretty much go anywhere you point them. Add to that an extra foot of track, and this 174 RMK can literally climb the side of a mountain without breaking a sweat. Places you couldn't go before are now entirely reachable. Lines you couldn't do are now very doable. I've said this many times in the past. Today's crop of ultra-high performance mountain sleds are capable of taking even novice riders way farther than the pros could go only 7 or 8 years ago. With this capability comes the opportunity for trouble. Fortunately, if you do ever find yourself in trouble, Polaris has outfitted the 174 RMK with a Barant-approved handlebar, underseat, and tunnel bag, so you can bring all the stuff you might need to get yourself out and get yourself back home. The second thing that became very clear after riding the Pro RMK 174 is actually a 2-part revelation. Actually, it's not really a revelation as much as it is a confirmation of what we already knew. Light is right, and so is being rigid. When things get super deep, I'm talking coming over the hood to the point you can't even see deep, a sled like this one can give you some confidence that you maybe shouldn't have, and you can end up wicked stuck. If you've never had a 174-inch mountain sled stuck before, you have no idea what stuck really means. It's at this point you'll be super appreciative of all the hard work Polaris engineers put into making the Pro RMK sleds, including the 174, as light as possible. No material where it's not needed, lightweight carbon fiber bits and pieces, a minimalistic approach to nearly every aspect of the sled. This was how ultra-low weight was achieved. Still, light isn't right if it comes at the expense of strength and rigidity, so it's pretty impressive that the RMK 174's chassis is the most rigid in its class, and it's also super tough. And these two attributes create a sled that is durable, but that also handles incredibly predictable. The RMK goes where you point it. It requires almost no effort to pull over on its side, and even less effort to keep it there, even on the nastiest, roughest, uneven side hills. If you're a tight tree rider, a 174 probably isn't the best choice, and it's not really necessary. When things get super tight, you do notice the extra length of the RMK 174. It's not that it's bad in the trees, it's just that it's not as good as something a bit shorter. But when things are more open, and when things get really steep and deep, the 174 really shines. 3-inch paddles and that outstanding, smooth, fast-revving, torquey Cleanfire 800 under the hood provide all the forward momentum you need to keep moving when others would be trenched to China. Polaris has proven with the Pro RMK 174 that light, rigid, and strong are just as important attributes on a sled this long as they are on any other mountain sled. Handling that's predictable and requires minimal effort may be most important when you find yourself way up at the top at the point of no return. If you've never stood on the top of a mountain at 10,000 feet looking out over the vast, fluffy white playground before you, you've probably never ridden a Polaris Pro RMK 174, because that's exactly where it will take you.
SnowTrax has been sponsored by Polaris. See endless possibilities. Arctic Cat. Share our passion. And by Northwest Ontario. What are you doing this weekend?
If you enjoyed the video that you just saw, like it and then subscribe to our page for more great content from SnowTrax TV.